Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to ZR vs. The Matrix. Today, we have a very important episode, so put your game faces on. Today, we're going to be talking about the Antichrist. Dun, dun, dun. So, what is the Antichrist, first of all? Well, the Antichrist is supposedly a man. It's from the book of Revelations, which is the last book in the Bible. And think about everything good. Think about Jesus Christ. Everything good, everything godly. Love thy neighbor. It's the opposite. It's the Antichrist. So people said that Hitler was the Antichrist. People said, I think, that Nero was the Antichrist. People have said all these people. I heard, if you believe it or not, somebody said Larry Finkelstein was actually the Antichrist, which that's just codswallop in my opinion. But anyways, the Antichrist, we're going to be taking a different view on the Antichrist today. We're going to be trying to explain what it means, most likely. I'm not just going to come out here and say that Tabernacle Jones is the Antichrist, right? That would be absurd. Anyways, so the Antichrist... just a brief story about the Antichrist. The Antichrist comes from Revelations, which is the last book in the Bible, and basically we've been talking a little bit about the New World Order, World War III, some of these things that, that me personally I think will probably happen within, the next 40 years or so, 30, 40, 50 years. World War III, New World Order, one world government, stuff like that, and then eventually the Christ coming back, which would be the Christ consciousness coming back. So when we talk about the Antichrist, we have to first think about what Christ is. So the esoteric view of Christ was the Christos, the Christ within. Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is within, so the Christ would be somebody that is fully awakened to the God within them. Episode 2, we talked about how this life is God dreaming, everything is God, even, this phone, they say it's made up of matter, but it's really energy, light condensed down into matter, which is God, and this is all God's dream. So the Christ, like Jesus, like some of these masters in India, like the Buddha, like, these people that have been enlightened, and, these are the Christs, and they have awakened to that God power that is within them, the deepest part of their being, because obviously this is all God, everything is God, so, we exist, therefore, we are God, You should go watch episode 2 if you're a little bit confused. But anyways, that's the Christ. So when we talk about the Christ, we talk about someone who has fully awakened to that within themselves, the God power within themselves, which is, someone like Jesus. So Jesus Christ, they called him the Christ because he had fully awakened to that power within him. So when we talk about the Antichrist, what is the Antichrist? If Christ is the Christ consciousness, right? When I say at the end of, in Revelations it says Jesus Christ comes back after this, the tribulations, the New World Order, all this shit. From the way I view it, and I'm not the only one, but the way I see it, it would be the Christ consciousness coming back, or another word for that would be a massive spiritual awakening. People are talking about we're in the age of Aquarius, all this stuff. New Age spirituality is on the rise. So that's how I would look at it. Christ consciousness coming back, and then maybe we have sort of a utopia society where, we talked about this last episode, but the pendulum sort of swings. But before that happens, we have to go through sort of the worst of the worst, which is, if you're not caught up, or if you haven't been tapped into the Matrix, the ZR versus Matrix, essentially what we have, the way I see it, and if I was a betting man, which I am, I would say the way I see it is probably pretty close to accurate. And I'm not talking about, everything, it's not like fucking, I like rap music, so therefore rap music is fucking objectively good. It's not like that. I'm saying more the systems, you'll understand. Anyways, if you've missed the Arborist Matrix, or if this is your first episode, welcome. But what we have been talking about is the Matrix, which is the Maya, the illusion of the material world. This life is all God dreaming. You close your eyes and you try to look for yourself. Right now, we can do it together. If you close your eyes and you try to find yourself, you try to find anything about yourself. You say, who am I? And then your name pops up, right? Tabernacle Jones, Zane Ralston, Larry Finkelstein, your name. When I say, who am I? Your name pops up. Oh, you're this. But then you can't find it. Then you say, okay, you close your eyes, your name is Tabernacle Jones, right? Who are you? You say Tabernacle Jones. Okay, your eyes are closed. Find Tabernacle Jones for me. Where is it? Where is he? And all it is a thought. So this is sort of the thing. The material world is the Matrix. It's the Maya, the illusion that keeps us distracted from, going within. The kingdom of heaven is within, as Jesus said. So anyways, the Matrix, this is ZR versus Matrix. We've established what the Matrix is, but we also, in the Matrix, in this Earth material world, we have these systems in place, and it's essentially, is ran by evil, if you want to call it that. We talked about this last episode, but sort of there's like a pyramid, and you call it the Illuminati, you could call it the ruling class, you could call it billionaires, you could call it whatever you want. But what we have is like these people that are completely entrapped in the material matrix, and they do horrible things like abuse children, do awful, unspeakable things. And they do this for power and control, and the higher up you go, like somebody with the ultimate power in this world has done the ultimate evil, basically. Not like the real ultimate power, but the ultimate power in terms of how the Matrix defines it. If you think of like a CEO, and then under him is an employee, right? The CEO would have power over the employee. That's what I talk about when I say power. Obviously they don't have ultimate power. Someone who would have ultimate power would be someone like Jesus Christ, who has fully awakened to that God within them. But in terms of the Matrix, someone with control, control is probably a better word than power, but somebody with ultimate control, like one of these people, from these 13 families or whatever that supposedly run the world and are at the top of the Matrix, they've been inbreeding for forever, and they think that they have superior DNA. Someone like that at the ultimate control, they have done unspeakable things that, any normal human is just awful, and it would make you feel, horrible, worse than horrible. These people are unsavable. But really what it is, I was thinking today, really what it is, these evil powers that control us, whatever, these people that, hurt children, sacrifice children, do all these evil stuff, it's the collective shadow was a term that this AI spit out for me. But basically it's like the shadow of humanity. So whatever. And it's not supposed to be, you're not supposed to fear these people. This is just the world we live in, where the Matrix is fucking, ran by this, by evil. Even I think in the Bible it says that this world is, ran by Satan or whatever, Lucifer. But the way you can look at it is not like, oh, there's a guy with horns that runs this world and people are sacrificing their children to this deity, like Moloch or Baal or whatever. But the way you can look at it is It's all God, first of all. It's all God playing a mask. If God is infinite, which God is infinite, that means everything is out there. So the darkest thing is out there. And the darkest thing in this case, in the world that we live in, would be something like SRA. If you don't know what that is, look it up. But that's what these elites, the ruling class, whatever you want to call it, the Illuminati, this is what they do. And this is the big thing that, the Epstein files, people are like, why aren't we writing? The Epstein files are disgusting. You talk about SRA, which is satanic ritual abuse, where they are killing kids, doing horrible things, sexually abusing kids, in order to sort of gain power over this material world. This SRA, satanic ritual abuse, there's talks about the torture in Epstein files, little people, little kids, I don't know why I said people, but very young kids and stuff. So they do this, like I said, this is the collective shadow. God is infinite. God is playing every mask in this world. God is everything, not every mask, but God is everyone, everything, and then the certain masks are worn. So we have this where it's like, evil, but it's, I don't want to get off track, and I don't want to try to justify this shit. It's unspeakable, it's horrible. But like I said, I do think the pendulum will swing. And so when we're talking about the Antichrist, because that's what this video is, Revelation says something like, a charming man will come and take over the world, and everybody will get the mark of the beast, and there'll be 7 years of tribulations. You should know the story, especially if you're watching this video. But the way I would look at it would be the Antichrist. If we think of Christ as the Christ consciousness, the Antichrist would be the exact opposite of that. So what is the opposite of internal mastery? Jesus Christ, forgive your neighbor, whatever they say, love thy neighbor. If you get slapped, turn the other cheek or whatever, right? So what is the opposite of this? The enlightened consciousness. Well, the opposite of this is what we are currently living in, which is, nobody goes within to find the kingdom of heaven. Everybody goes on this thing. Everybody goes external. We live on the external world, right? So even this, if you're watching this video, this is the external world. So that is the opposite of the Christ, the kingdom of heaven within. We are already experiencing the antichrist consciousness. It is the matrix, the obsession with the materialism, the matrix. You need the better car, you need the more followers on Instagram, you need all this shit, and that's what the Antichrist is. And then the further we go on this, as the Antichrist rises, which is what we live in, but it's the complete opposite consciousness of this godly enlightened consciousness. You have everybody trapped in the matrix, everybody trapped in fear, anxiety, judgment, judging other people, judging themselves. And this is the Antichrist, at least the way I see it. And maybe I'm fucking wrong. Maybe Peter Thiel is the Antichrist, right? And he somehow becomes charismatic and takes over the world, and everybody gets a mark on their forehead, right? Like in their right hand, and fucking all this bullshit, right? To me, the story is much more likely that the Christ is the Christ consciousness that Jesus talked about. Jesus talks about all these esoteric shit, obviously in a way that's a trillion times better than fucking young ZR on the Matrix, on the ZR vs. Matrix YouTube series. But fuck it, this is what you're stuck with. So that's what I would guess, and I want to say I'm fucking guaranteed to be right. This is just what I think. Like I said, maybe somebody could come and they actually are the Antichrist, and they fucking rebuild the third the temple or whatever the fuck, and all this shit, right? And then Jesus Christ comes back down on a cloud. Maybe that happens. Who's to say? But what else do we want to talk about? So, anyways, another reason that sort of supports this belief. You think about the Antichrist, right? The Antichrist is described as being the most evil, horrible person of all time, the spawn of Satan, right? But there's kind of a flaw in this logic, at least where we are in 2026, because the most evil, horrible, unspeakable person, the spawn of Satan, the devil incarnate, right? This person already exists, and there's hundreds, thousands of them. The people that are participating in this sort of Illuminati, whatever you want to call it, you could say anyone from these 13 families that suppose that, like I said, they think they have superior DNA, the ruling class, and they do these horrible, unspeakable things for control and power. You could say any one of these people are the Antichrist. They are they're worse than the devil incarnate, right? Like, people that we know, people that we've heard of. This Epstein shit is insane, but this is just like, if we're seeing the Epstein shit, imagine how much shit we're not seeing, right? And there's horrible shit. I haven't looked at the Epstein files myself, but I've seen a bunch on Instagram. Just terrifying shit. Like really, really awful, disgusting shit that, my point is, there's not, at least in my eyes, there's never going to be a, just one man who is evil above all else, and he comes and takes over the world, right? To me, we already live in a world where there's unspeakable evils going on as we speak, and a lot of it is by people that we see in the media and in the, our politicians, like shit like this, people with control, they're a part of this system, this ruling class system that is, it's like a pyramid, at the top you have whatever the fuck, and then it goes down, you have, you can look into it more. I'm not going to get too deep into the Illuminati, because that's not the point of this video, but the point would be, what is the Antichrist? And from my eyes, the Antichrist would be the opposite of the Christ consciousness, which is we're living with the Antichrist right now. Every time you go on your phone and you fucking tap into the Matrix, and you think, you're tapping into this consciousness that is the Antichrist. And then in the story it says Christ comes back. So what would that look like? Hopefully it's in our lifetimes. I think it will be. If we say that the World War III is going to be in our lifetimes, which it looks like it will be, supposedly supposed to be what is it? Islam versus Zionism. And it looks like that's what we're gearing up for. So if we have this idea that that the New World Order and this horrible, the Revelations essentially is going to play out in our time, well then obviously the Christ coming back would play out in our time too, right? So the way I look at it, the way I see it, would be the pendulum swinging, like we've talked about before, where right now we're sort of at this point where crazy evil is rampant in our society. The people that run our society are inherently evil and unsavable. Anyways, this is who runs our society. And we're sort of at this point where it's almost the tipping point, almost at maximum corruption, maximum evil, and unspeakable shit. And then finally, when we get to that point, it's like the snake that eats its own tail. It's eating its own tail of greed. It's like greed and lust and control and power and all this shit. And the maximum you can get to that is, okay, now there's a one world government. We have ultimate control. There's a surveillance state. Whatever the fuck. And then after you get to the end of that, you say, oh well, shit. There's nothing. There's no more. We can't be. There's nothing to be greedy about. You know, we have everything. It's like all this shit. You know, the thing is fulfilled, and then the only thing that can happen is the pendulum swings back the other way towards what we would call good. And then maybe 1,000 years from now, we have a fully enlightened, sort of Atlantean style society where we have free energy from the ether, and all these really cool, interesting topics that people have, Tesla thought we could harvest energy from the ether. He's one of the smartest guys that ever lived. Like all this shit. So, anyways, that's just my 2 cents. I'm gonna put this shit on 2 times speed, so it'll be like a 9-minute video. What else do I want to talk about? I don't know. I don't really have that much else. This is just kind of my own thoughts. Say I'm completely wrong, and there actually will be a man that is the true devil incarnate. Who can I place my money on right now? If it was on Kalshi, Peter Thiel would be a good one, but you're supposed to be charismatic, so not Peter Thiel. I really don't think it'll be a man. If it is, we probably have never don't know who he is until it comes out. But like I said, if you watch this video, maybe you'll see what I see. That it probably won't be a single man. It's more the system, the anti-Christ consciousness. Anyways, do I have anything else? Not really. That's the video. I'm going to put this shit on 2 times speed. I hope you guys enjoyed. Catch you guys on the flip. Stay fly, boys.